Hi, everyone. So my name is right there in bold next to me, but I've been attending Foothill Bible Church here for about 5 years with my family, and for 4 of them, I've been a member here as well. So before I get into this past year, I need to kind of set it up a little bit. So I have been looking to become a teacher. I spent about 6 years in school, and in the end of 2020, I was able to complete my student teaching, which, if you know, is 15 pretty grueling weeks of basically being a teacher without actually being paid for being a teacher. So in that process, I was working virtually, of course, because of COVID and just everything with the schools in a public school system. So I was teaching 6th graders math virtually, which, as you can assume, was pretty difficult. It was not the easiest task, but the Lord was very faithful in the fact that the students really felt a connection with me. They were excited every time I was on Zoom, and they were willing to learn and listen, to the point where my supervisor, who'd seen me for years, looking at this virtual teaching was like, I have no clue how this is going to work. But by the end of my time, she's like, you have built a connection and made this a positive learning environment virtually. I don't know how you did that, but you did it. So, starting 2021, it was a lot of anxiousness for me. I had spent 6 years of my life training to become a teacher, applied for my credential, and was like, okay, what next, God? Because it's the middle of the school year. I'm not promised a full-time job. I'm lucky if I get a subbing position, maybe something part-time. I want to use my career to glorify you and to be able to be a witness to those in a public school system. Thankfully, the school I was working with actually contacted me. I had an interview, I believe, in January, and just kind of, we're looking for this position, but we're looking for more elementary. And I teach middle school, or high school. That's what my credential's for. So we'll get back to you. And within the month, they actually hired me part-time as a utility teacher. What this means basically is I am supporting students in math and being able to help out the teachers as well as the students and supporting them that way. In that, I spent the part-time, I was only working 3 times a week, again, all virtually. Was never actually in my own physical classroom for quite some time. And it gets to the end, and I started becoming anxious for the future. I have no clue what's going to happen. I'm applying for jobs, and I'm getting either rejections or people saying they're not looking at hiring at the moment because it's still a pandemic. You know, there's no promise of being physically in the classroom. So my biggest hope and prayer, if you look at Psalm 27:14, it says, wait for the Lord, be strong, and let your heart take courage. Wait for the Lord. So I worked on my patience, waited for God, and on the last day of school, met with the principal, and she gave me a position for summer school, which was 3 to 4 weeks with the students in person for the first time. And it was me and one other teacher that the middle school students went back and forth between. It was not the easiest. I got to learn a lot of classroom management and being able to work with kids in person for the first time, totally on my own, which was a unique experience, as you can assume, especially because middle schoolers are interesting. No offense to the middle schoolers here. I do love my middle schoolers, don't worry. So as we were working on that, I always think of don't be anxious about anything, but in everything, by prayer and supplication and with thanksgiving, let your request be made known to God. And on the last week of summer school, again, I'm still unsure of the future. Lo and behold, God has said once again, meeting with the principal, and I'm given a full-time position with the school. So this year I have been working again as a utility teacher. So I'm working with 4th to 8th graders in math right now, which has been such a huge blessing. But it is full-time, teacher salary, and it's been wonderful. I may not have my own classroom, and I may not have super regular students, but God has been very faithful to me in providing this full-time job. And while this job is only guaranteed for the year, I know that wherever he's leading me is going to be a beautiful place, that the lives I'm touching today and tomorrow are going to be there for a lifetime. Whew. So, in that process, as you can tell, contentment was a huge issue, not knowing what the future is going to hold for me. Even for this year, I'm still not sure what the future is going to hold, but I know God is faithful. And I know that as we continue in our walks, there is going to be persecution. Working in the public schools is not always easy. Dealing with CRT, dealing with masking, with student behavior, it's been a little rough at times. But it's through that process that we can rejoice, because we know the hope for the future is so much greater than what we're living in today. So looking forward to this year, my biggest thing is for the younger people in this room, as well as the older people. We can all remember these lessons, but we need to walk wisely. The days are dark, and the days are evil, but God is so faithful. But you have to be wise in your walk. You cannot just continue on life like it's every other day. We are not just regular people, we are Christians, and we have to stand firm in that truth. And we have to understand what the will of our Lord is, and the only way to do that is by being in the Word, as 2 Timothy tells us. It is living, it is teaching, and it is continuing us every single day. Without that, we will not be able to continue. This hope and this promise is what guides us and leads us. And while the future is unknown and it can be scary, there is a greater hope in everything that we see and that we're promised, and that is the greatest joy that we have.